Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up today, 2 chances to win fantabulous prizes, a flight risk prize pack, plus so much more at 4:45, and our good news giveaway at 5:45, including a Daniel's Broiler gift card. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
The left is losing their minds over DOGE. Why? Because Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and all his friends over there, including Big Balls. Yes, they have this person who is working for Elon Musk, whose online alias is Big Balls. Do we care? Did nobody see the movie Hackers? Serial killer, all that other insanity they had in that movie? This is what these guys do. And you know what? I don't care. They're fighting all the corruption in government. However, the greatest gift from this whole thing from Donald Trump and Elon Musk was this montage of the mainstream media getting so upset over this computer analyst named Big Balls.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big balls.
Big Balls, who work for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online, Big Balls here, that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned Big Balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about big balls in charge of American air traffic control?
You're welcome, America. Well, I'll tell you, I feel more comfortable about the kid named Big Balls being in charge of this stuff than I do about Sam Britton, the Looney Tune who liked to wear women's clothing and steal women's luggage, who was in charge of nuclear material. We remember that? Yeah, I don't want to hear about Big Balls ever again. So they're analyzing all the data, and the left is going bonkers crazy because all their little slush funds have been discovered. The most entertaining thing to me is that they're always saying, oh, Donald Trump is corrupt and Elon Musk is corrupt, and they're just doing this to make themselves richer. They're literally making sure American taxpayer dollars are being spent right. It makes no sense at all. In fact, just a few years ago, everybody on the left was agreeing this is what we should be doing. Here's Mark Cuban, definitely not on the right. This is him in 2017.
As a libertarian, I think we can reduce employment in government by at least a third, reduce the overhead and administration by that much or more, so that we can offer more to services for our citizens. And so if when it comes down to it, where I tend to disagree with everybody, and this is the libertarian in me, I'm happy to push down the size of government, and I'm happy to work on making government more efficient, because then more money can pass through and help the people who need it. And that's what needs to change.
And now, who's one of the people yelling and screaming about all this? Mark Cuban. Exactly right. Everybody's losing their minds. And I'll tell you something. Here's what they're more worried about, aside from their little slush fund going away. What they're more worried about is people being inspired by Elon Musk's example, by Donald Trump's example. Governor Kim Reynolds of Iowa signed an executive order today launching Iowa DOGE. That's right. Led by Emily Schmidt, we will build on the work we've done and optimize government for Iowans. So they're doing the exact same thing. Let's go line by line through it. Now, over the weekend, a bunch of you sent me a link to basically it's Washington's checkbook. This is not a hack. Washington may suck at a bunch of things, but for transparency, by law, they happen to be very, very good. So over at Washington State's fiscal information, they have state spending broken out by payments to state agencies, which they call the open checkbook. Now, a few of you sent me links to this weekend because it was shared in a few places online, and some of you sent me the research you did. Now, the first thing some people sent me on, and I verified this, of course, is the Seattle Times. For some reason, Washington State spent $102,000 $356 with the Seattle Times. Now, this is just like what we saw with the mainstream media outlets that were getting money from the U.S. government. This is no different than that. We saw it with AP. We saw it with the New York Times. This is crazy. This is exactly what we saw with them, and we're seeing it here. Now, I reached out to the Seattle Times for comment. Seattle Times, by the way, never returns my requests for comment. Ever, ever, ever. This time I made sure to send it through the website, send it to the editors, send it to everybody, because you know the easiest thing for the Seattle Times to do, Mike? You know the absolute easiest thing? Well, Ari, we're required by law to post public notices. Washington State is required by law to post public notices, and that costs money, and we have to charge them for it. You want to shut up Ari Hoffman? That's the easiest way to do it. So why don't you just say that? Because here's what we're going to find out. We're going to find out that what it really is Washington government paying for a ton of subscriptions for the Seattle Times. That's what we're going to find. How do I know this? A listener saw my post about this over on X, which is the Hofffather and Ari Hoffman official on Facebook and Instagram. This listener sent me this. I retired from Seattle Municipal Court, and they are also providing free subscriptions to employees for the Seattle Times. In addition, the public information officer sends a daily email to employees with links to articles that they are highlighting. I cannot confirm how these subscriptions are paid for, but I assume the city of Seattle is also providing financial support to the Times, again, on taxpayer money. Would this surprise anybody? No, of course not. And do you think when you're getting six figures from the government, you're going to be objective about the government? The worst comment I saw, and this thing already has 5,000 likes, hundreds of reshares. The worst comment I saw is, what, Ari, you don't get the Seattle Times? No. Why would I want a subscription to a paper that has endorsed the worst candidates and the worst policies for Washington? Why would I want to fund something like that? But also, it is proof they can't be objective. You want to know why you shouldn't subscribe to the Seattle Times? Go to their YouTube page and watch the entire interview with Bob Ferguson. Watch the entire thing. You don't want to spend an hour watching it? Fine. It's broken down by section. Watch the section where they ask him about the Gaza encampment at University of Washington and why, as Attorney General, he didn't do anything to enforce civil rights laws. He couldn't answer the question. He couldn't answer a lot of the questions, and a lot of them were softball questions by the Seattle Times about his own record, and he couldn't answer them. And they endorsed him anyway. And let's not forget, in their endorsement, they called him overly ambitious. They called him pushy. I think they even called him obnoxious or something. But it was not a flattering endorsement. But they endorsed him anyway. Why? Because they want subsidies from the government. It's that easy. Let's not forget, we now have money being spent on this fellowship so people can cover the legislature. You think they're going to cover it unfavorably if it's being paid for by the government? No, of course not, which is insane. So this is what they're using your taxpayer dollars for. That's not all, my friends. Did a little bit more digging. So I pulled up the word immigration or immigrant. And what I found was multiple organizations that deal with immigrants. Now, to separate the legitimate ones from the illegitimate ones, I went to each of their websites. There are two kinds of immigration help, refugee help websites. The ones that don't say they're helping illegal immigrants, it just says we help immigrants. And the ones that say we help documented and undocumented. Or couched in the language you can tell they're talking about illegal immigration. The two of these are activist groups where you can look at their members, you can look at their social media profiles, and you can tell what they represent and what they stand for. So the two that jumped out at me was the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project and the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network, which both admit on their website to working with immigrants and dance around the illegal immigrant issue because they don't want to admit that's what they're actually doing. However, the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network says they are a queer and transgender founded and led nonprofit. profit. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Are there a lot of queer and transgender illegal immigrants coming across the border we have to deal with, or is this a uniquely illegal American problem? So would you like to know how much money we gave to these groups? $16.5 million. $16.5 million. Now, mind you, the total spent on groups that don't openly admit to helping illegal immigrants was only $9 million. Washington has a $12 to $16 billion budget deficit. And instead of cutting programs like this, Olympia threatens to cut first responders so they can justify taxing us more to solve their out-of-control spending. And the panic is already being attempted. So here's another example. You have King County is now telling everybody in King County that there's going to be a $150 million budget shortfall. See, what's happening is all the counties are saying, we're going to have to cut your county sheriff, and we're going to have to cut your first responders. You don't want that to happen, do you? So when the legislature votes to lift the property tax lid, which is what they're trying to do today, when they're doing that, you have to support it. Don't call and complain about it, or you're going to lose your first responders. Or worse yet, here's what they're going to do. Oh, you guys melted our phone lines? Well, we're just going to have to cut your first responders. We're not going to cut the money that's going to the Seattle Times. We're not going to cut the money that's going to illegal immigrants. Instead, we're going to cut the money going to your first responders, to your roads, to your highways, to your bridges. We're not going to stop spending on EVs, but we're going to cut all the money going to that. They're already laying down those threats. So, do you know that the Washington State Legislature is trying to triple your property taxes? That's right. By lifting a lid that stops them from increasing your property taxes 1% to 3% every year, they are literally going to triple your property taxes. How many people are going to be priced out of their own homes? What, you think the government, as soon as it's able to triple your property taxes, won't do it? Of course they will. So it's House Bill 1334. That's House Bill 1334. And as a hearing at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, I don't want you to wait for 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I want you to call in right now and tell them not just no, but hell no at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. You call them up and you say no to House Bill 1334. If you can't remember what that is, you say, I don't want them lifting the cap on my property taxes. 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. And the Democrats are in absolute panic mode over what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing because it's inspiring other people to do the same thing at their government. I put up one post about the Seattle Times. One post. I've got the immigration one going up tonight, and I've got another one after that. But so far, I already have people who have volunteered to help me with this online who are already digging into different assignments. Jonathan Cho. I have him digging into Homeless Inc. He offered to help me out. This is what they're worried about. You're going to find all the fraud in government. You're going to be inspired to do the exact same thing, just like the governor of Iowa. You know what else I found? So, you know that at DOGE, we found out we were funding terrorist organizations? Over $660,000 of your taxpayer money here in Washington State is going to the Council for American Islamic Relations, CARE. That's right. That's the group that was listed by the U.S. Department of Justice as an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, which was the largest terror trial in U.S. history. This is a group that has been called the arm of Hamas in America. This is a group that was helping, as an unindicted co-conspirator, to launder money for Hamas. This is a group locally whose members are the ones who participate in the walkouts, who participate in the protests, who are the ones who glorified October 7th, and your tax dollars. 666, I don't think that's a mistake, that number, $666,000 of your taxpayer money is going to Washington. Oh, no wonder they want to threaten to cut the first responders. They want to give their terrorist friends an open lane. So they won't cut the things like the funding for illegal immigrants, like the funding for terrorist organizations, like the funding for the Seattle Times. Instead, what they want to do is they want to triple your property taxes, which is absolutely insane. So remember to call the Washington State Legislature. Be nice to the person who answers the phone, because the person who answers the phone is not a legislature. They are somebody who is hired to answer the phones there. Be nice, be polite, and say no to House Bill 1334, or if you can't remember the number, you say no to the bill that wants to raise the lid on the property taxes at 1-800-562-6000. Now, if you want to help with the effort to dig into this, make sure you follow me at The Hofffather on X, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll see my posts that are going up tonight. You'll see my posts that go up tomorrow as I continue to break down the budget. And I'm more than happy to give you the link to do the exact same thing. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from George in Kenmore. George, what's up?
Hey, Ari. On this DOGE thing, I used to be a contracting officer. We managed one airplane down at Boeing Field, so I had to go to the school. And then later on, I learned from CPAs at AT&T Wireless that there were these things called encumbrance accounts. And when you wrote a contract, you'd have to make sure that there's no encumbrance account, because it's nothing more than a slush fund. And the government used extensively those kind of named accounts. So I'm just wondering, I imagine Elon's guys are taking a dump of the giant database, like a big spreadsheet, and then filtering it and doing queries on it, right?
They're doing it a little differently. What they've done is they've written software that goes looking for certain things, that goes breaking it down, because you're talking about 1.4 billion transactions.
Yeah, they're writing queries.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're writing queries and then dumping results.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that there's a bunch of cover-up words, the CYA world for accounting, and they're not accountants. It could be get a forensic auditor or something to help them out.
Well, George, have you ever seen the movie Dave? The movie Dave, about the guy who pretends to be president, Kevin Kline, right? So the scene when they cut the homeless shelter for the kids, and he calls in his personal accountant to start going through the budget, and the accountant says, if I ran my company the way the U.S. government does it, if I ran my company like this, if I ran my business like this, I'd be out of business, which is exactly what's going on here. And the left freaking out about it is because everybody is somehow getting what they want out of this, whether it's actual corruption, whether it's their virtue signaling projects. That's what's going on here. George, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. And don't forget, who was very supportive of Bob Ferguson's Attorney General campaigns, who was very supportive of his gubernatorial campaigns. That's right, the Council for American Islamic Relations. Why do you think they're getting more than $500,000 of your taxpayer money from Washington State? Can't imagine why. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. With eggs being as expensive as they are, we had the Great Egg Heist in Seattle. More than the stuff they took in Goodfellas from JFK. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So, you may have heard about the Great Heist at Idlewild Airport in the 1950s. You may have heard about everything in Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12. No, my friends, now we have the Great Egg Heist. Police are investigating after a brazen theft at West Seattle Cafe, where thieves made off with hundreds of eggs and other breakfast foods in the early hours of Wednesday morning. According to Como News, officers responded to the Luna Park Cafe, located in the 2900 block of Southwest Avalon Way around 4:42 a.m., after a report of suspicious activity was captured on security cameras. You know, eggs and toilet paper used to be so cheap, we would throw them at our enemies' houses. Now they're more valuable than gold. And let's not forget that here in Washington, they're even more expensive than nationally. Why? Because here we have that stupid cageless chicken business where if the chickens are running around wild, then okay, but if you keep them in coops, you have to pay more money. Yeah, you can thank the Democrats for that one. Insane, absolutely insane stuff. According to police, 2 men were seen entering a refrigerated shed at the restaurant and removing boxes containing approximately 540 eggs, valued about $387, along with bacon, ground beef, blueberries, and liquid egg products. The suspects were then seen loading the stolen items into a van before fleeing the scene. The egg theft comes at a time when egg prices have flown to record highs due to the ongoing bird flu outbreak. Ah, yes. What happened? We had the bird flu. So the U.S. government said, kill all the birds, just like they did with that train rollover in East Palestine, Ohio. It's, we're not going to clean this up. Let's detonate it, because that's how government rolls. Total value of the stolen goods is estimated to be around $780. Now, mind you, this wasn't the only egg heist. There was another one over the weekend as well, where people are just targeting more and more breakfast foods. And in fact, this is something that's happening nationally because they're so expensive. Now, people are going, why hasn't Donald Trump brought down the costs yet? And I love the Democrats. Why hasn't he brought down the costs yet? How dare you cut the federal budget? What's wrong with you? Guys, your arguments aren't making any sense. In fact, you're losing your minds. You're really suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. But when they're stealing eggs, that's how bad things have gotten. Now, meanwhile, there's a story from right here in Seattle that shows how broken windows works. What's the broken window philosophy? It is what they did in New York in the 1990s under Rudy Giuliani. It is if you enforce the small level crimes, you'll start to have a culture that doesn't do the small level crimes, but also you'll arrest some of the bigger criminals for smaller level crimes, because a criminal who does the big crimes doesn't sweat the little ones, like, for example, how they get the mafia guys on tax fraud. Right? As opposed to, you murdered 100 people and dumped them in a swamp somewhere. So, when they started arresting the squeegee men, and if you don't know what a squeegee man is, I don't know if you guys ever had them out here in the Pacific Northwest. Imagine coming off a highway exit, and all of a sudden some dude comes up to your car with a dirty rag and some dirty soapy water thing, starts spraying your window and making a bigger mess of it on your windshield. And when you say, no, thank you, he yells at you until you give him money. When New York started cracking down on those guys, they found out they had records for other things, and they were able to make the city a more attractive place. When they started kicking people out of the subway and arresting them for jumping turnstiles, same kind of thing. Cut down on graffiti, cut down on vandalism. And in the process, they would arrest some bigger fish. So here's a perfect example of it. According to Como News, 3 I-5 graffiti taggers were arrested after shooting at a vehicle driving on an off-ramp late Friday night. Washington State Patrol received a 911 call just after 11 p.m. with reports that a person was shot by 3 suspects tagging the off-ramp from northbound I-5 to Dearborn. Oh, it's just their art, right? It's just their art. Don't mess with their art. They're just making art. Remember what that was when that was the big excuse? Troopers and Seattle police officers took the 3 suspects into custody. All 3 were booked into the King County Jail. 2 handguns and a bucket containing spray paint cans were found and through the arrests and during a search of the area. Is anybody surprised by any of this? No. Now, there is a new report from Washington's Department of Transportation that they're running 2 successful pilot programs in helping prevent graffiti that uses drones. Of course, I want to see those graffiti walls they had in the Naked Gun movie, where you start graffitiing the wall and then it starts graffitiing you. I like that better. But the first pilot program involves drones. And in Tacoma, they started testing drone technology to see if they were capable from removing graffiti from hard-to-reach places, like that lunatic tagger who climbed up on the the monorail, to start graffitiing the thing. And apparently they've had a lot of success doing this. They call it very effective, and it's been very effective at cleaning up the highways. See, maybe we should use that more here in Seattle, because anybody who's driven from Seattle to Mercer Island or anywhere to the east side on the I-90 bridge can see exactly where Seattle's jurisdiction ends, because that's where the graffiti ends. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Joe, what's going on? Joe, are you there? Going once, going twice, and no Joe. Well, my friend, you can call back. If we didn't get you that time, we'll put you right on the line. Lots more to discuss, including how with this graffiti thing, it's not just the drones they're doing. Because don't forget, when you guys got to shut down a section of highway, then you have a lot more cleanup to do, but also you got traffic problems. But now Democrats are trying to get rid of traffic entirely, trying to ban you from your car and stick you on their trains. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Don't forget, on Mondays, you get 2 chances to win fantabulous prizes. And your first chance to win is coming up at 4:45, where we are giving away movie tickets to see Flight Risk, plus the most insane prize pack we've ever given away. There is something in this prize pack that is nutso, but we'll tell you about it at 5:45, so make sure you're listening then. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe, who we couldn't hear before. Joe, are you there now?
Oh, I'm here now, buddy. I'm sorry we got things drop off because I got some breaking news.
Yeah, what's up?
We've got some politicians who have signed we're going to testify pro on House Bill 1334. You want to list the names?
Oh, of all the ones? Sure, let's name and shame who they are.
Kathleen Koch from Connell.
Mm-hmm.
Megan Dunn from Snohomish County. R.A. Barone from King County. Joe Bushnell from Tacoma.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Association of Washington Cities, a lobby group paid for by your tax dollars, has signed up for it.
Yep.
To pro.
Yep.
The mayor of the city of Issaquah, Mary Lou Polly, just can't handle a public vote. And I've saved this for last because I know you have thoughts on this lady. The mayor of the best city in Washington State, the city of Redmond, Angela Burney.
Oh, so she wants more money for her daughter's Hamas buddies. Right, is that what it is? Oh, fantastic. Isn't that great? Oh, just wonderful. Joe, that's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Yes, and you should testify saying just that, because I want Mayor and President Vanessa Kurtzer. We'll have a great war if the city of Kirkland has an anti-Semite or Alex Zimmerman show up. Great war.
Well, I'll tell you this, Joe. I appreciate you naming and shaming. In fact, over on the text line, we have a text from Bruce, who always has some good points here. He says, Ari, your advice to call a legislative hotline about House Bill 1334 is well taken, but won't really get to the heart of the matter. You need to name all the members of the Finance Committee, especially the Democrats, and make sure they and their offices hear no, hell no before that meeting tomorrow. One of my representatives, Amy Whalen, a Democrat in District 48, is on that committee. I'm calling her office as soon as I finish composing this text. I will be pointing out that I am on her mailing list, and she sent me a legislative update on January 22nd, noting the unaffordable ability of housing was one of her priorities. Housing is a lot less affordable when taxes go up threefold. When it is an issue this important, be sure to name the specific targets, says Bruce. Joe, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Mitch in Bonnie Lake. Mitch, what's up?
Hi, Ari. This is a little bit dated, but I don't know if you're aware on these taggers. There was a deal, I'm going to guess like 15 years ago in the city of Tacoma, where they had a call about some people tagging. An officer responded, and I believe it was just a singular officer that went to the call. And as I recall, there was 3 people tagging. They ended up jumping the officer, got him on the ground, and they were beating the hell out of him and trying to get his gun and stuff. And one of the perpetrators happened to be a female, and the officer was so feared for his life that he ended up physically biting her thumb completely off.
Oh, my God. Okay, so I'm going to have to go look up that case.
You're crazy.
I'm going to have to go look up that case, but don't forget, tagging. Right, tagging is not just about, I want to write, so-and-so rules or whatever it is. A lot of it has to do with marking gang territory, marking drug drops. And our politicians don't seem to get that. It's art. Oh, it's art. It's art. Yeah, appreciate the perspective, Mitch. Appreciate the call. Thank you so much. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Remember when we were told by King County leaders and transit activists that, transit's so safe and those drivers aren't getting assaulted? Well, they rolled out these new protective barriers on transit the other day and said the quiet part out loud.
Well, it's about time.
Greg Woodfill is talking about this.
More than 70 pounds and locks, so it's a secure, almost impossible to move.
A barrier that would protect King County Metro bus drivers from potentially dangerous passengers.
We demanded this the day that Sean was brutally murdered.
Woodfill is the president of the King County Metro Drivers Union. He's been leading the charge for these barriers after Sean Yim, a Metro driver, was stabbed to death by a passenger in December.
So we're going to add a piece of glass right here that closes it off, and then our shop will add a piece of metal up here that closes it off, so the barrier will be completely closed.
This week, Metro is giving drivers like Lawrence Norfleet Sr. the chance to weigh in.
I think it's a good step at the start, but like I said, I think the driver needs his own compartment, and I think that would be the better way to go.
These are the barriers that are currently on King County Metro buses. They were installed during the pandemic for health reasons, but as you can see, drivers say they're flimsy and it's easy for passengers to get to them.
County records show from January to November of 2024, there were at least 17 felony charges filed involving the assault of transit drivers and 193 assault cases overall.
It's very alarming. Our goal is always zero. That's the number of incidents that we find to be appropriate. So we're doing everything we can to get to that point.
The county says about 1,300 Metro buses will need to be outfitted with the new barriers. The price tag for that is roughly $15 million.
We're glad that it started, and we're glad for the commitment the county's going to retrofit our whole fleet, and we're just anxious to get it going.
The earliest we'll see these barriers on buses in service will be late summer. In Seattle, Bridget Chavez, King 5 News.
Thank you to King 5 for that report. But here's something to note. I thought these are rare occurrences. I thought assaults never happen. 193 in the last year alone? And you're saying they never happen? Are you kidding me? It seems like it's happening all the blanking time. And here's something else. I would love to hear from some of our friends in transit. You can stay anonymous. But last time I heard from some of you guys, you were telling me that those COVID screens they put up and protective screens they put up reflect light in such a way that makes driving dangerous because you can't tell. You think lights are coming in your direction. They're not. Do these screens do the exact same thing? Are they worse? Are they better? That's my other question on top of all of this. But then my other question is, how many of those 193 assaults were done by prolific offenders who should have been in jail? Were done by drug addicts who should have been in treatment? Were done by people with mental health crisis who should have been in treatment? And I'm going to guess it's over 80%. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Herb in Arlington. Herb, what's going on?
Oh, I tried to reach that 800 number on 1334, and I let it ring for 7 minutes, and it never answered.
Did we melt the phone lines again? Sometimes that happens during the show when a ton of people call in on a number. So there's another option you can do. Try calling in a little bit. That's another one. But the other one is you can go to the Washington Legislative website, okay? This is a little bit more involved, which is a bit of a pain in the you-know-what. But you have to find your legislature and email them directly. It's a little bit more of a to-do, which is why I just stick with the hotline. And a lot of people prefer, plus a lot of our audience is listening in the car, and they can just tell their Bluetooth device to, call the number. But, yeah, you can go on the Washington Legislative website, and you can do an email instead, okay?
I will try to do that, too. I appreciate it. And I get you when I'm driving, so I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I just don't want anybody emailing and driving, Herb. So appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, did the Super Bowl show that America is healing, that nature is healing, and America is back? Or was it more of the same? We'll discuss when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Those of you who are longtime listeners to the show know I am not that big of a football guy. I'm a bandwagon Seahawks fan. I jump on that when they're doing well. I was never a fan of the New York teams, but I always enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. We used to have big parties at my house. I used to throw big parties for the youth organization. And then I started going to friends' houses when I got lazy and my kids started moving out of the house. And yesterday, I kind of had it on over my shoulder. I was paying attention. The thing I really paid attention to was the opening ceremonies. I like that kind of stuff. I love cities showing their best. And if you didn't like jazz, I'm not a particularly big jazz fan. You may not have liked the music, but I did like some of the stuff they did with Lady Gaga. I did like a lot of the stuff they did for New Orleans. For example, a tribute to all the victims of the terror attack on New Year's Day, which disappeared from the news as soon as we found out it was an actual terror attack by somebody inspired by ISIS. That disappeared from the news cycle right away. But I liked the tribute they did to that. And also, it seemed like it was more Americana. And it also seemed like people are tired of the woke stuff. So during the national anthem, Donald Trump was there. And he gets a big cheer when he comes out and he's shaking the hands of the first responders and stuff, but they didn't do a big introduction to him. During the national anthem, the camera panned over while John Batiste is performing, and I thought he did a really, really nice job. While he's performing, the camera pans over to Donald Trump. He's standing next to his daughter and one of the football team owners. And he's standing saluting, and this cheer goes up inside the stadium.
Through the perilous fight, or the rain.
So that's when they see Trump right there when that big cheer goes up. And it was really, really nice. A lot of stuff with the military, full colors. Now, they always do that stuff. Am I reading too into it? Did it feel a little bit more because it doesn't say end racism in the end zones? I think you could judge a lot by the commercials. Sure, there were still woke commercials. There were some commercials I didn't like. But at the end of the day, girls in bikinis eating hamburgers, lots of Americana. You had Brad Pitt narrating this pro-American commercial. I think overall it was great. I also really liked, and I posted it over on my social media feeds, and I know that we have the Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership as a sponsor of our show, and we love our sponsors. I'm not saying this because of them, but the Jeep commercial with Harrison Ford I liked the best because Harrison Ford was narrating a commercial about how you want electric? Go electric. You want gas-powered? Go gas-powered. You want to be politically one way? Go that way. You want to be politically another way? We want all of your business, and we have a Jeep for you. And it feels like that's the way the country's going. And I really liked that commercial the most. Then you have Taylor Swift pop up on the screen during the game, and here's what happened. She looks confused, then kind of frightened, then more confused again. And I think it may just be, I was talking to Mike about this. He's our resident football expert because I am not. It may just be that a lot of people are tired of the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift nonsense. Like, can we get back to discussing football? And people may just be tired of the Chiefs. It may be a whole bunch of factors. But at the same time, it feels like people are starting to move away from all that. It was really refreshing to see. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you disagree with me. Give us a call, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Steve in Tacoma. Steve, what's going on?
All right, buddy. Yeah, no, they made it worse, man. I'm a lifelong football fan, and when they spend 30-plus minutes on – there's only one national anthem, by the way. Only one.
So hang on a second. I'm going to let you finish your point. But something I noticed there was that the online commentary about having two national anthems, it seems like people are done with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL said next year, yeah, we're just doing one national anthem after it.
Yes. And then, I mean, Kendrick Lamar, and I mean, he's a dirty, filthy rapper. How he pulled that off. But, I mean, the halftime show, it's disgusting. I'm glad that my daughter is 33 years old because there's young children watching this, and you got all this, I mean, hip-hop and lowriders out there. And
well, I'll say regarding that, here's the thing. if you're trying to get that out of our culture, it's not going anywhere. I wish it would. It's not going anywhere. But here's something else. It wasn't designed for you and me. Years ago, the Super Bowls were designed for you and me. You know, Pepsi and all that kind of stuff. This wasn't designed for us. So I don't even feel right talking about the Kendrick Lamar performance because I don't know who Kendrick Lamar is. Does that make me old? Does that make me dated? Yes. Do I think we should be putting it on national TV? No, but it wasn't designed for you or me. I didn't like the rap performance last year when they did the tribute to all the guys from the 90s. It's just not my thing. But at the same time, the young generation doesn't want to watch Paul McCartney. Aerosmith's not performing anymore. I think that's where we're left with this, but I hear what you're saying, Steve. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, Washington State doubles down on dumb when it comes to thinking they know better for your kids than you do. We'll discuss that, plus a whole lot more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:45, your chance to win movie passes to see Flight Risk and the Flight Risk Prize Pack. But before we get to any of that, over the weekend, Seattle police arrested 2 individuals associated with Antifa during a direct action, advocating for the abolition of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. According to the Post-Millennial, one trans adult was taken into custody on assault charges, while another juvenile female was apprehended for obstructing police. The incident occurred around 4:30 p.m. at Alki Beach Park in West Seattle, where hundreds of demonstrators had gathered to protest against ICE in response to President Donald Trump's nationwide crackdown on illegal immigration, following years of open border policies under the Biden administration. Now, according to this report, Janelle Gipaya Howard, 32 of Bellingham, was arrested and booked into King County Jail on assault charges. According to Seattle Police Detective Brian Pritchard, Howard allegedly assaulted another protester in front of officers. The defendant, who has a history of violence stemming from their involvement with Antifa, was released from custody the following day on $1,000 bail. That means they have to pay like next to nothing to get out. Seattle police confirmed Howard as a suspect to the Post-Millennial. The militant's identity was concealed behind a facial covering at the time of the attack. Now, fascinating we mention this now, because joining us now on the KVI studio line, who called in to discuss this very thing, I'm assuming, is our friend Bennett, who's one of the protesters who goes to these things, and we have a good relationship where we get along just fine, even though we disagree on a lot of topics. Bennett, were you assaulted at this thing?
Well, we did get along until you just came for my girl Taylor. Oh my God, I wasn't even thinking of talking about that today.
Okay. All right. You know, my son also, a lot of people in my family, my son, my daughter, they were really mad at my take on Taylor Swift, but that's fine. So tell me what happened from your perspective.
Okay, so I did go to the Abolish ICE rally. I mean, small thing, you were saying like direct action. That's usually people think of as like, you know, we're effing S up. I haven't called into terrestrial radio to argue with people for years and years, so it's taking me a bit to get this. You know, we were talking about, using the Washington State Legislature website is a real pain in the you-know-what. Like, it takes me a little bit to downshift back to that. But I went to the rally. Like, so it wasn't like direct action. There's a family-friendly thing, people just marching down.
A family-friendly thing where you got assaulted.
Okay, minus that part. Yes, mostly peaceful, asterisk. Yeah. Okay, yes, I was. So, okay, you were just going to cover this anyway. You didn't know. Okay, yes, I was the one that they jumped. I went and I had a sign. I mean, nominally on the same side as usual. It just said. Well, I think I posted it. It's on my Twitter if people want to read, and we can argue about this part too if you want. It says, "Abolish ICE is not extreme. All they do is chase down undocumented immigrants who overwhelmingly make this country better. We could shut the whole thing down tomorrow." I mean, it's kind of a running joke that I make signs that are so big that I try to fit stuff on them that's actually like the beginning of a dialogue and not just like a slogan. And so sometimes people actually do come up and talk or argue about it. Although that's not what happened that day. A dialogue would have been nice. But yes, like you said, some of the people. Well, the first thing that happened was Christina of the pink hair saw me. So I've been standing.
Hang on. Just going to interrupt you for a second here. So Christina David is the one we've covered before. She's got ties to MS-13. She's regularly involved with Antifa, and she's the one who went after our friend David with the Israeli flag at that event at UW a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, actually, okay. I have the bleeped version of. Okay, so this is the video from when David was carrying the flag, and I bleeped out.
Wait! Don't play it! Don't play it on air. I'll share it later. Don't play that over the thing. But yeah, I'll play it later. We'll look for it.
I did edit it. I mean,
it's okay. We can't do that FCC stuff. But yeah, we'll play it later. But yeah, so back to this issue. Keep it here with the ICE stuff, okay?
Okay, you're saying you can't play it even if you bleeped over all the profanity?
I don't. We can't play stuff we don't know about, etc. There's privacy. There's a whole bunch of stuff. We'll deal with it another time. But let's stick with this. We're talking about the ICE thing, not what happened at UW. Stick with this thing, okay?
Okay. So yeah, Christina, I've been standing there for about 10 minutes holding the sign. People saw me, and it's like, okay, that's same team, that's fine. And then at some point, Christina sees me across the crowd and starts walking over and yelling at, "F you, Bennett, get the F out of here, Bennett." And then she yells to somebody standing next to her, "Get him out of here, he's a predator."
Why is she mad at you?
Okay, so well, again, you just told me we can't even play the bleeped clip on the radio. But remember, the last time we were talking about how back in 2020, I was one of the volunteers in the BLM marches, but then I was the one who was calling out some of these people who were filming themselves going up and yelling wildly homophobic things at cops and telling cops to kill themselves or posting
right.
stuff
You're
online
very consistent about that. You always call that out when you see it. Yes.
Right. Now, and some of those people got offended because I was calling them out, and Christina was one of them. And Christina was one of the people who, because she was posting stuff online about, sort of joking about killing police officers, and then she ended up spreading rumors that I had attempted to rape some of the people in the protest movement. And this is very serious. This is not a joke, but that is what has been the basis for the people attacking me ever since this happened.
So let me make sure I got this right. Okay, Bennett, I'm just trying to understand. I'm not trying to make fun of you here. I'm really not. I'm trying to understand. So you still go to these protests because you believe in the cause, but oftentimes at these protests there are these lunatics who have whatever impressions they have of you and attack you. Why do you keep going?
Well, some of the time there's a critical mass of people who aren't on board with the insanity, and then they keep it relatively safe. I mean, most of the time that I go to these things, this doesn't happen. And it really depends if she's there at all. And then even if she is, sometimes there's just not a critical mass of people that she can get to do this stuff. But I can play. So what about this? I have the audio of when she went to court to say this stuff about me. There's nothing that needs to be bleeped here.
I'll tell you what, Bennett, you send it all over to me. We'll take a look at it. We'll tell you when to call back to the show, okay? It's a whole thing. We just can't do it right here, okay? I know you want to play it, and I'm not telling you no. I'm just telling you no for now. We'll do it another time, okay? I promise we will. Okay.
All right. I mean, it's just like she went before a judge and said this stuff, that I had attempted to rape underage people in the car.
Well, hang on a second. Bennett, right off the bat, this is a woman who has assaulted people on video. This is a woman with ties to gangs. This is a woman who has said very mean things about a lot of people I know. I don't need to give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay, I'm giving you benefit of the doubt in this situation.
Yes, to be perfectly clear.
And you and I disagree on a lot.
Never happened.
Right. But you and I disagree on a lot. So in this case, you're with a friendly audience here. But getting back to what happened with this ICE rally, so would you say the crowd was overwhelmingly peaceful and this was a small isolated incident? Was it one of these things where Antifa showed up to try to instigate an issue? What do you think happened here?
Yes, I think it was overwhelmingly peaceful. And even after the person ran up and shoved me in, there were multiple people who came in and tried to de-escalate it. But the thing was, the police saw it from across the street. And so, a couple minutes later, they were able to move in on the person. And, the most ridiculous thing was there was about 10 minutes that passed between the time the person who was like head to toe disguised shoved me to the ground in front of the police and 10 minutes later when they moved in on him, they found them because they were still wearing the same puffy tan jacket. And if they had just ditched the jacket sometime in those 10 minutes, then they wouldn't have known who it was, and they would have gotten away with it.
Well, don't give them ideas, Bennett. Don't tell them how to get away with it.
More brain cells than that. They wouldn't be listening to Christina, obviously. So.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, Bennett, here's the thing. You send me that video. We'll figure out another time to play it on air and get into this more deeper, but I'm really happy that you called to tell us exactly what happened here. I do appreciate it. All right, man?
All right. Well, like I always said, I will call in and talk to anybody. If Pete Buttigieg can slum it calling into Fox News, I can call into the Ari Hoffman show.
Exactly.
I'm just not going to give anybody a pass. I'm not going to give anybody a pass in exchange for airtime. So, I'll call, I get in trouble calling them out. I'll call you out on your own show, too, if I think you're right. I mean, I was listening on Friday, and it was like, he's playing Rand Paul talking smack about vaccines. I got to call in on Monday. And already too much stuff has happened since then, and we're not going to be able to get to that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you can call in anytime, but send me those videos. I see I have some waiting Twitter messages from you, so I'll check them out after the show. We'll go from there. All right, man?
Okay. Be safe.
All right. Very good. You as well. Stay away from the crazies, okay? Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We found out some other news today that apparently, do you remember this clip back from October when Dana Bash accused Lara Trump of Donald Trump making up stories about where funding was going regarding illegal immigration? I'm just going to play this for you, and then I'll tell you the news of the day and why I'm playing this for you.
Well, the citizens in Western North Carolina are screaming for help, and it's having to come from local citizens. People from my hometown of Wilmington are driving across the state 6 hours to go to the mountains and help people.
It is bad.
It is the federal government. Why are they out of
it? It is bad there, but my question is about the misinformation, particularly the notion that they are moving money to migrants, to, you say, undocumented migrants, which FEMA says flatly is not true. And if people are not getting correct information, then they can't go for assistance as they have been asked for. I just want to quickly play what Senator Tom Tillis.
Let me just say for 1 second.
Go ahead.
You have migrants being housed in luxury hotels in New York City. We have paid so much money from our tax dollars into the crisis that didn't need to happen. We could redirect money to help people immediately on the ground in North Carolina.
Laura, they're saying that they have
probably going to have a situation coming up in the next several days.
That's a separate tranche of money.
So it wasn't a separate tranche of money. Apparently, tens of millions of dollars was going towards paying for these luxury hotels from FEMA. It all came out today. It was all exposed by DOGE. It all was. And they said they had no money for Americans in Maui. They said they had no money for Americans in East Palestine. They said they had no money for Americans in Western North Carolina. But they had, what, $1 billion to spend on illegal immigrants so they could be in 5-star hotels in New York? Mike, I can't believe they tried to say this didn't happen, because we covered exactly which hotel it was, exactly which one was being used. We had reports from people in the Office of Emergency Management in various cities talking about what was going on, and they're trying to say it didn't happen. Well, now DOGE has revealed, yes, not only did it happen, but you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. So here we go. These are news releases from FEMA. Here we go. This one was put together by Robbie Starbuck. From FEMA, Department of Homeland Security announces $380 million in additional funding to communities receiving migrants. FEMA awards $110 million to the Emergency Food and Shelter Program to assist migrants. FEMA, Department of Homeland Security, announces distribution of more than $77 million in congressional funding for communities receiving migrants. Politico, New York City to get $104.6 million from FEMA for asylum seekers. From the U.S. Embassy in El Salvador, Department of Homeland Security announces distribution of more than $12 million in funding. From FEMA, Department of Homeland Security announces $300 million in direct funding to communities receiving migrants and $340 million for new competitive awards process. So how can Dana Bash on CNN claim this wasn't happening when they were admitting it at the time? And now Elon Musk has the receipts. We even know the hotel. The Row Hotel in New York City was one of them. We covered it at the time. That now they're saying, oh, no, it never happened. And they're getting upset that Elon Musk is revealing all this government waste. Representative Maffume was riling up his supporters in Congress and a bunch of random protesters. Now, we know that these funds also went to protesters in some cases. So do you think the ones that are part of this are being paid or not?
This will be a congressional fight, a constitutional fight, a legal fight, and on days like this, a street fight. Yes, we will stand.
I'm sorry, a street fight? That kind of reminds me of Maxine Waters in 2018.
Let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Well, that sounds like an insurrection. That sounds like inspiring violence, doesn't it? In fact, Maxine Waters, this was purely performative, went over to one of the departments on Friday and got into it with a security guard who's saying, don't come in. If you guys had gotten in the building, what would you do? Just go through the halls looking for Elon Musk and big balls?
Look them in the eye. Come on, hold your face up. Look at him. Let him see you. This is him. look at it. What's your name? Tell us your name. Give me that ID again.
The ID I showed it to you.
So what?
I showed you the ID.
You do what?
I showed you the ID.
Could you let me see the ID again? Huh?
No.
No? Will someone else ask him for the ID? Will you ask him for it? He won't let me see it again. You didn't see it. You didn't see it. They didn't see it.
By the way, this dude probably has no idea who Maxine Waters is. But this is the insanity. This is all performative. They're calling Donald Trump corrupt as he's rooting out corruption in the U.S. government. It's bonkers crazy. Now, mind you, something else is going on here is that somebody from the government, somebody from ICE, is leaking where these ICE raids are going to be. Here's Tom Hoffman talking to Fox News about it.
I have so many questions. First of all, if they're shouting and helping these people get away with bullhorns, how is that legal to get help from the people in the streets? I know they can protest, but that's not what they're doing.
You're exactly right. When they come to they cross the line of impediment, and that's why I'm working very close, starting this morning with Department of Justice, and where do they cross that line of impediment? So they may find themselves in a pair of handcuffs very soon. So working with DOGE on that, get some legal guidance on that. I'm not an attorney. I know what SecOps is about. I know what crossing that line is, but getting DOJ back up on that. So it's something we're looking at right now, Harris. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. This is not a game. When we show up these sites, this is a dangerous job for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and all the DOJ agencies. To have that type of interference puts our officers at great risk. Not only the officers, it puts the aliens at great risk because anything can happen when we take our eyes off the goal here. So we're addressing that immediately today. I'm addressing OPSEC today, operational security, how these leaks are happening. We've already identified how this operation got leaked. I'll deal with that today.
So Pam Bondi followed up on this and confirmed she is going to be pursuing whoever this leaker is who gave away the information so that gang members escaped ICE.
And I'm proud to be part of that.
I'm glad to hear that. Let me start with you've cracked down on sanctuary cities. The DOJ has put a pause on all federal funding to sanctuary cities and states. You filed a lawsuit against Chicago and the state of Illinois for being a sanctuary city. Am I wrong in my interpretation that a sanctuary city is aiding and abetting in lawbreaking?
Sean, what they're doing is they are choosing illegal aliens over the safety and security of their own citizens and the men and women of law enforcement who are out there trying to protect their citizens. Not only did we sue today the city of Chicago, we sued the state of Illinois, we sued the mayor, we sued the governor, and we sued others. And let me be very clear, if you don't comply with federal law, you're going to be next.
What about those that we now...
So she's saying that they're going to go after whoever these leakers are because they're not complying with federal law. And I'm going to tell you something. This isn't something that's just happening in Denver. This isn't something that's just happening in Chicago. This is something that's happening right here. So Katie Daviscourt from the Post Millennial and I worked on this together where a school district is vowing to do everything it can to protect its students after an ICE raid last week nabbed a parent who was an illegal immigrant with a record of assault. He had an active warrant for his arrest after being deported twice. ICE told us that Fernando Nimchachi Matzar, 51, is a citizen from Guatemala, was arrested on January 29th at a laundromat in Langley, Washington. According to the agency, he had previous convictions for disorderly conduct and assault. He was previously deported twice from the U.S. to his home country, and he returned to the U.S. at an unknown date. Court documents obtained by the Post Millennial showed Matzar's criminal history dating back to 2011 included assault, disorderly conduct, DUI, reckless driving, making false statements to a public servant, which means a police officer. He's been convicted of DUI, reckless driving, and making those false statements. He was sentenced in August 2021 to 365 days in jail and was ordered to pay a fine. He was released from custody and then was charged for more offenses. So, in an email to South Whidbey Island School District, Superintendent Joe Macchio wrote about the arrest. It has come to our attention that one of our school parents has fallen victim to the immigration raids that began in our country. Our hearts go out to their spouse, children, and friends. She also gave families a link to guidance from the state's Office of Public Instruction. So a guy who's got DUI, a guy who's got assault, he's fallen victim to ICE. Oh, no, he's a victim. What about his victims? What about the person who got assaulted? What about the people he lied to? What about the people he could have killed while he was driving under the influence? But this school district on Whidbey Island thinks that he's the victim. You know what? A lot of people, a lot of criminals have kids as well. It's their relatives' fault for putting them at risk. It's their parents' fault for committing those crimes. So, you deported a guy with a family? Oh no, boo-hoo. Whidbey Island is a lot safer because that guy was deported. They also made it sound like the guy was arrested at the school. They had to send out a clarification email that he wasn't when they found out he was arrested at a laundromat. Because everybody's lying about this to suit their narrative about ICE bad. Didn't tell you the guy had a record of assault. Didn't tell you the guy had a record of DUI and all these other problems. Instead, what do? They run with this because they want to display how virtuous they are, which is complete, absolute nonsense. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, did Hamas just cancel the hostage deal because of Trump? And Trump comes out with his own fiery language. That plus more of your calls. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Don't forget, we are streaming video of the show on weekdays. You can see it over on Rumble, Facebook, and X, and at KVI's YouTube channel. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Mario and Kent. Mario, what's going on, man?
Hey, Ari, how you doing? Listen, buddy, I know you probably like a more diplomatic guy than me, but like I was telling Mike, I think you know what CNN stands for in my book.
Keep it clean. Keep it kosher.
It's clean. Communist News Network, basically. We argued many years ago about that. Somebody said, call it back then the clean news. No, these guys are the Communist News Network because all they pitch is garbage. But one of the things that I wanted to tell you about is this thing. What does these people on the left do when they get their hands caught in the cookie jar, right? We already know that millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions, if not billions, have been funneled to illegals because even in Panama there was an investigative report where these NGOs from the United Nations, which were being funded by the United States with those little credit cards, debit cards, that they're reloadable and all that.
Yeah.
Even the people using them were saying that they were getting it from the government. And the other thing that I wanted to tell you is, yes, they don't have any money, right? But we sure as heck have money to send, 150 to 200 billions to Ukraine for that stupid war that they've been fighting, which should have never started to begin with. And we could have spent that money on our veterans and on our helping our people here in the Carolinas, in Tennessee, in Florida, and in California, and even in Maui. There was no money for the people in Maui. But the funny thing is what we have discussed about. These people, the Democrats, were the ones that burned these people's cities down, and they still vote for them.
Exactly.
So,
well, I'll tell you something. There is some bright news with the Ukraine thing. Apparently, Donald Trump leaned on Zelensky, and he said, if you got all these minerals in the country and we're giving you these hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to export all those minerals over to us, or you're going to see that gravy train dry up, because what are we defending otherwise? So there is a little bright spot there. And I think sooner rather than later, we're actually going to see an end to that. But you're right. They're spending money on everybody else and not on us. They're spending the money on their pet projects and not on us. It's absolutely insane. Mario, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You might have missed over the weekend that there was another hostage release, and immediately afterwards, Hamas is now saying there's not going to be another hostage release, and there's 6 Americans still being held hostage by Hamas. Now, this hostage release, I only saw it on Fox and Newsmax and the right-leaning outlets. I didn't see the left covering it at all. When these hostages were released, a lot of them, one of them especially, was a bigger guy, but they all came out looking like Holocaust victims. It was truly horrifying. I posted the pictures over to my social media account. When the world said never again, it lied. Because how many people said, oh, they're being treated humanely. Oh, look how good they look. Oh, look how Hamas is treating them. Well, Donald Trump on the plane flying to the Super Bowl over the weekend, Donald Trump said, this is insane. And he actually said that the hostage deal isn't working out if this is what we're getting in return. Don't forget, this is also a guy who just saw the October 7th footage and knows what Hamas did to innocent people. Exactly right, because the longer this deal drags on for, these people are being held hostage and they're suffering. And you know they're releasing the ones who are in better shape. So Hamas today announces it's canceling the ceasefire deal. Why? Because enough people said, look at the pictures, look what they're doing to them. This is wrong. What are the condition of the other people going to come back, including those Americans? So Donald Trump today was asked about his comments, and just a few minutes ago said this. He's 100% right. Enough of this. Enough of this. When people come out looking like the concentration camp and most of the media is silent, where's all the human rights organizations? Haven't heard from them. None of them said anything about this. In fact, most of my friends around here didn't even know it happened because it didn't make most of the media over the weekend. He's 100% right. No more of this nonsense. If we say never again, then let's hold never again. Thank you, President Trump, for your moral clarity on this issue. Because it's insane to me that Joe Biden is like, oh, Islamophobia. What? Shut up. No more of that. Shut up. Okay? Look what they're doing to the hostages. It's absolutely insane. When we come back, speaking of insane, do you know there was supposed to be an Anthony Fauci museum paid for with your taxpayer dollars? Yeah, that was where USAID money was going. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 4:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including 4 tickets to see the new Mark Wahlberg movie Flight Risk, plus a Flight Risk prize pack as Mike and I review the latest movies. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. According to Fox News, the Department of Health and Human Services canceled more than $180 million of contracts over 48 hours, including $170,000 for an Anthony Fauci museum exhibit. If my voice wasn't so scratchy today from this cold that everybody has that's going around, I would say, well, so is this the kind of thing where, well, first, that doesn't sound right. I can't even do it. So what it would be is you got to get your shots first, right? Then you get your boosters. Then you get a museum exhibit. Then you're fully protected. Is that what we're talking about here? In the past 48 hours, HHS canceled 62 contracts worth $182 million was announced by DOGE. These contracts were entirely for administrative expenses. None touched any healthcare programs. This included terminating a $168,000 contract for an Anthony Fauci exhibit at the NIH Museum. Now, the left is going bonkers, and they're saying they're cutting funding for medical research. No, it's all overhead. At least that's according to DOGE. And by the way, I don't doubt it at all. Think about that clip from Independence Day, where you got Jeff Goldblum, and they're all going down to Area 51, and the president, Bill Pullman, says, how do you think they paid for all this? And Jeff Goldblum's dad character says, what, you don't think they really paid $20,000 for a hammer, $40,000 for a toilet seat, do you? That's literally what we're talking about here. All this overhead, all these crazy expenses, and they were going to spend it on Anthony Fauci Museum? Why are we spending money on any of this? By the way, if Anthony Fauci wants to go out and fundraise for a nonprofit, the Anthony Fauci Foundation, and raise money that can go to a museum exhibit, fine. I'll make fun of it, but at least it's not using taxpayer money. Why do you and I need to pay for the Fauci Museum? Plus, did he do such a great job with the AIDS outbreak? No. Did he do a good job with COVID? Absolutely not. In fact, he may have been the one who funded the whole thing. Now you want to give him a museum exhibit? Oh, spare me. That's absolutely insane. By the way, the COVID stuff around here. So, Attorney General Nick Brown from right here in Washington is now suing over this, saying they want to make sure that Anthony Fauci gets his museum. No joke. Nick Brown realizes he's not going to do anything to help us here in Washington. Instead, he wants to make sure that Anthony Fauci gets his museum and they get that overhead back. Now they're saying, oh, the Fred Hutch isn't going to get the money. UW isn't going to get the money. How much of that is wasted? How much of that is not actually going to research and is instead going to administrative garbage? We need to be more responsible with it. You guys don't realize that through this, you might actually see more funding for research, but they want the pork. Now, meanwhile, around here, when it comes to COVID, people have still lost their minds. From the Whitby News-Times, the former chairperson of the Allen County Republican Party is now facing a felony charge in connection with his refusal to wear a mask in the county elections last fall. Remember, we did this story at the time. Guy was kicked out, wasn't allowed to watch the counting results on election night because he wouldn't wear a mask. By the way, no law saying he had to, as far as I know. Prosecutors charged 57-year-old Tim Hazelo, a North Whitby resident, in Allen County Superior Court with unauthorized access to a voting center, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass in the first degree. I don't see any of that saying mask. Do you? No. What that is, well, we're mad you wouldn't wear a mask. We're mad that you're a Republican. So we're going to charge you with federal crimes to make it a felony. This is just what they did to a whole bunch of the January 6 people. It's absolutely insane. We are definitely going to reach out to Island County to find out how they can actually justify this. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Connor in Ording. Connor, what's going on?
Ari, I love your show. I just wanted to comment about the Fauci Museum. You know, I support DOGE 100%. I love what they're doing, trying to get rid of the excess waste and spending, but I kind of support the Fauci Museum. I think it should be an awareness museum. Point out everything he's done for our society in his entire career. in the evil, corrupt deep state.
Yeah,
and
but here's the thing
he's done to expose it.
Here's the thing, Connor. Well, so I heard that at the top of the news from KVI that they want to put a deep state museum in. I don't want my tax dollars going to that either. If you want to go out and fundraise for the Deep State Museum or the Fauci Museum, that's fine by me. But you know what? I would love the Ari Hoffman Museum. I think we need a testament to my rise in media, starting from just running for Seattle City Council, but I don't think taxpayers should pay for that. For example, something that bothers me is when I see that federal funds went to presidential libraries, which sometimes they do through museum grants. I don't think that should be done. I think it should be that if you want a museum, you guys should fundraise for the whole thing. But I hear what you're saying is that it would be very easy for somebody to create the Fauci Museum online as a testament, and I think more people would actually see it, Connor, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
For most of what you said, but there's lots of statues and, say, the Civil War museums and stuff all over the country and other states that expose the evil that our country has done, even within itself.
Oh, I hear that. I mean, look, we can have a discussion about keeping them up, tearing them down. We can have a discussion about that and what we should be spending our money on. But a Fauci museum, I think we spent enough money on him. If he wants a museum, he can pay for it himself. Connor, appreciate the call. Appreciate the perspective. You want to be part of the show? Give us a text at 206-421-5757. When we come back, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including movie tickets to Flight Risk while Mike and I review the latest movies. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Before we get into our review of the trailers for movies that went out during the Super Bowl, I saw the movie Back in Action starring Jamie Foxx and Cameron Diaz. Oh, what garbage. What absolute garbage. It's streaming on Netflix right now. And it is clear that what they're doing is let's get the big stars, let's make a cheap, crappy movie, let's put it out there, and hopefully people will watch it. Now, unlike some other movies which I've mentioned in the past, I did not get what I wanted out of this. I wanted stupid. It was too stupid for stupid. I wanted a little bit of action. There was really terrible action. This is the new formula, and you know what? I think it's got a 50-50 success rate right now. There have been the movies we liked. There have been the movies we absolutely hated. I liked that Union movie. I hated the Red Notice. It seems like there's more and more of these that are just coming out, and it seems like this is the new way they're doing it, and I'm not even sure what a movie is anymore.
You got a mouse in your pocket over? What's this we stuff you talking about?
That's a fair point.
This is a journey you are taking by yourself, my friend.
You are right. This is a journey I take when I'm looking for something to just ignore or on a weekend or something, and I did not enjoy this movie at all. I would say skip it entirely. And also, I like Cameron Diaz. I like Jamie Foxx. And I thought this movie was below both of them. It didn't come off as sweet. It didn't come off as charming. It came off as forced. And I didn't believe any of it. And I think these actors are just taking the paycheck and phoning it in. And I'm just disappointed. That's it. Two actors that I like produce garbage like this. And yes, every actor, not every movie's a hit. But some of this stuff is just such trash that's streaming right now because there's no stakes. It can sit there forever and will eventually make its money back in however many people stream it by whatever calculation Netflix is using. If you want to tell them to stop doing that, and I got to start with this, stop clicking these terrible movies. Now, meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of real movies coming out that are going to be out in theaters that we saw some terrible trailers for during the Super Bowl. The one I'm most upset by is the Fast and Furious one. Let me tell you why. It wasn't a trailer for the movie. It was a commercial for Haagen-Dazs. And it was a commercial with Vin Diesel, and it's got Michelle Rodriguez, and it's got the two of them driving along in a car, and it's not so fast, not so furious while they're just cruising, having an ice cream bar. Now, I love Haagen-Dazs, and I love Fast and Furious, but what bothered me about this is everybody just came off as old. Oh, we just want to chill and have our ice cream. It didn't come off as, oh, this is entertaining. It came off as, you're old too. Because think of how many of these movies there have been, and now you're making ice cream commercials. So we don't do Corona anymore. We don't do DOGE anymore. Instead, we do Haagen-Dazs ice cream. It came off as too commercialized and also contrary to the franchise. Mike, you feel the same way?
The commercial came across as too commercialized?
Fair enough. That's a fair point, Mike. That's a very fair point. I did not like that one at all. The other one I hated was Jurassic World Rebirth, which is basically we're going back to the island from, I think, the second or third movie. We're going back to that one, and once again, we're going to get ourselves into trouble, but it's got Scarlett Johansson in it. Really? We're just doing this again? I am not interested. It's like, at this point, not another Jurassic Park. I'm kind of tired of these movies. And the formula I came up with is if it's got a functional amusement park in it, it's a good movie. It's a watchable movie. If there's no functional amusement park, I'm done. I'm bored. I'm tired. It's boring. I know you got to keep people going to that Jurassic World ride that you just rebranded out there in Universal, but guys, give it a break for a bit. We're going to have another Tyrannosaurus Rex tearing up downtown what was it, San Diego? San Diego, that's where it was, right? No more. Enough. Garbage. Stop. We saw the Mission Impossible trailer. We liked it. It's not the first time we've seen one for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, because there's not going to be a Dead Reckoning Part 2. Please.
Address it by its Christian name. Mission: Impossible -8, because they already had 7.
Yes.
8 Dead Reckoning Part 2 The Final Reckoning.
Oh, dear God. Yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. No, we're not going to do that. So that one, it looks good because they all look good. Tom Cruise is hanging off a plane again. This time it's a biplane. It seems kind of anticlimactic after hanging onto a giant cargo jet and the jump of the motorcycle. But still, we're going to watch the you-know-what out of it. Mike and I love these dumb movies. We're going to enjoy that one. Mike, were there any other movies that really caught your attention during this? I mean, I saw one or two others. There was the war movie with Pierce Brosnan. That one looked okay. But aside from that, I didn't maybe you skipped that one. He's the old man.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. There was the one with Pierce Brosnan. Maybe it was after the Super Bowl because we have that issue from time to time about when
I watched the Super Bowl online and not on television like normal people.
I watched it on television this time. So
you just said how you didn't. You had it on in the background and you saw it over your shoulder.
Background, still on a television though.
Okay, but that doesn't mean you're watching.
No, that's fair.
That doesn't count.
This one got me to turn around because I heard Pierce Brosnan's voice.
Gotcha.
So apparently it's about a World War II vet who's trying to get to Normandy. That one looked interesting. I don't know if it was before the game, after the game, whatever. That one actually looked interesting. Anything spark your fancy there, Mike?
Let me check with my friend Dr. Evil over here.
How about no?
Okay, so
no.
Mike did not like the movie trailers that were out. And
I think that's all of them.
That may be all of them. They told us Superman trailer. I didn't see no Superman trailer.
Nobody told you Superman trailer.
I heard something about a Superman trailer.
No, they specifically said there wouldn't be a Superman trailer.
This is what happens when you just read
Listening
headlines.
comprehension.
Got to work on that.
Thunderbolts was the other one.
Oh, yeah, Thunderbolts.
And that looks pretty dumb. That looks like it's better than Suicide Squad, but not as good as the Suicide Squad.
Exactly. I would agree and say the same thing. Before I forget, your chance to win 4 Adam passes to Flight Risk plus a Flight Risk prize pack. In this high-stakes suspense thriller, Academy Award nominee Mark Wahlberg plays a pilot transporting an air marshal accompanying a fugitive to trial. As they cross the Alaskan wilderness, tension soar and trust is tested, and not everyone on board is who they see. See Flight Risk in theaters right now. All you have to do, in order to win these 4 movie passes plus a Flight Risk prize pack, which I believe has a very special item in the prize pack, which Mike and I modeled for you over on social media, just to be like Mark Wahlberg. You have to be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 win 4 Adam passes to Flight Risk plus a Flight Risk prize pack. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, are we getting our own version of DOGE here in Washington? Is it going to be made up of people like you, people like me? We'll discuss it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Congratulations to Dre in Spanaway, first-time winner. You are going home with 4 Adam passes to see Flight Risk, plus the wackiest prize pack I have ever seen. But don't forget, your next chance to win is coming up at 5:45 during our Good News giveaway. And before we get to any of that, Donald Trump is riding high. His approval rating is the highest he's ever enjoyed. Because it turns out when you actually do what you're going to say you're going to do, and people elect you for that, and then you don't disappoint them, and you do exactly what you say you were going to do, people respond really well to it. I had tons of options to pick for this one. But the one I picked was CBS, because CBS was definitely not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. So here's CBS giving you Donald Trump's poll numbers.
Our CBS poll finds that a majority of Americans, 53%, approve of the job he's doing. That's a better approval number than he ever reached during his first term in the White House. Joining us with more is our Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Good to see you, Anthony. What's driving this?
I will keep it simple, Margaret. He is doing, in the eyes of the public, what he said he would do in the campaign. There's political value in that. In fact, 70% of people say he's doing what he promised. That's whether they approve of him or not. Now, there's another part of this that continues over from the campaign. There were words that he was described as being tough, being energetic, and he still is today in big majority numbers. So as people take a look in these first few weeks, there's been a lot of activity. They're getting that general sense of governance, and that's being reflected in these early numbers.
So that's perception. What about the actual policies?
Well, let's start with the ones that are popular. And again, these echo a lot of what we saw in the campaign. The idea of deporting those in the country illegally continues to be popular. We saw that in the campaign. Sending troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, again, majority in favor. We'd seen that in the campaign. For his supporters in particular, the focus on ending DEI is popular. We had seen in the campaign a lot of them thought those processes had gone too far.
I am loving all of this because here's the thing. Everybody's agreeing with what he's doing, and the Democrats don't know how to get the narrative back. Instead of moderating, what are they doing? They're getting more extreme, like marching on buildings in Washington, D.C. Guys, I thought you said people who did that were insurrectionists. I love that even CNN had to admit what was going on.
You know, I think one of the things that's so important for politicians is for folks to believe what they're saying and that they're keeping their campaign promises. So I think this gives you a pretty gosh darn good idea of what may be going on. Trump's doing what he promised to do. You go back to April of 2017, it was just 46% of all Americans who said that Trump was doing what he promised to do. Compare that now to February of 2025. You know, there was a good show that was on during the 1990s called A Different World. That is what's going on right now. We're living in a different world. 70% of Americans say Trump is doing what he promised to do. Again, compare that to April of 2017 when it's just 46%, when Americans are 24 points more likely to say that you're doing what you promised to do. It's no wonder that your net approval rating is much more likely to be on the positive side of the ledger than on the negative side. And so far, what we're seeing, again, is Americans, 21 days so far versus just 11 days during his entire first term, that Trump has a positive net approval rating. Quite a different world.
Exactly. And the media is trying to bring him down more and more and more, but it just ain't working. Because when you tell a bunch of people who voted for him for these reasons, he's doing all the things you voted for him for. Yeah, and we're tired of it. We're tired of the nonsense. And don't forget, he's getting a ton of political capital out of cleaning up Joe Biden's mess. You know what they didn't mention this weekend? That just this weekend, over 80% of the people who are still hurting from the hurricane in North Carolina were assisted. That FEMA got them the assistance they needed this weekend. In just, like 2 weeks now? Took Joe Biden months, and he didn't get any of them assistance, especially those who had Trump flags. So he's getting political capital out of that. Sean Duffy was out in the field answering questions to Fox News about what they've done.
So you see I-40 here behind me. This is the eastbound lane. It is completely washed away for much of the section between North Carolina and Tennessee. And so our role as the Department of Transportation is to provide money and expertise to the two departments in, again, North Carolina and Tennessee to rebuild this important stretch, this important artery that connects people and commerce, not just between the states, but across the country. And so we're out here looking at the damage and assessing how much money it's going to cost to do this rebuild. And by the way, it is going to be billions of dollars to rebuild just this stretch of the highway. Also, it's going to, as you see, it's been washed out through here. It's going to take rock to fill this back in and build the roadway back up. Well, we can get rock 30, 40 miles away. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money, but the Forest Service can partner with us, and we think they're really close, just about 1.5 miles over this mountain. We can get access to rock that'll drive down the cost and the time frame for which it'll take to rebuild this road. So, again, we're out here assessing and looking at how we can partner with local officials to rebuild quickly. And Donald Trump, he doesn't move at the speed of prior administrations. He moves lightning quick. So we want to go fast, we want to go cheap, and we want to go safe.
And here's the amazing thing, is that Joe Biden had months to do that. Months. And it's still washed out. Nothing's been done. Absolutely nothing. So when the majority of Americans look at what Donald Trump's doing, they're like, he's fixing the problems that Joe Biden and Democrats couldn't.
I come from small-town America, and I think when you live in small-town America, like many of the communities here in western North Carolina, they feel forgotten. They feel like their federal government doesn't care. Their state governments haven't cared about them. And I think with this administration, they understand that they might be from a small town. They might not be the richest people, but you know what? We have not forgotten about them because they're Americans and they deserve our help and our aid. And we're going to provide it to them, whether it was Christy Nome with FEMA or us with DOT. Donald Trump came here one of his first trips. We're going to make sure that every American is treated fairly and equitably as we look at the disasters that have happened around the country, but specifically right here in Tennessee and North Carolina.
That's what actual equity looks like. It doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter anything else. You're an American. We're going to help you out. But that's not how Biden ran things. Remember when he traunched out the vaccine? It was, what's the color of your skin? Which union are you in? How can we help you out? Remember that? That's how Joe Biden did. Picking winners and losers. That's what they did. Well, you don't see a lot of this being reported by the mainstream media. They completely ignored the fact that 80% of the people who needed help got it this weekend because Donald Trump helped them out, and they still hadn't gotten it from Joe Biden months later. Months later. Why is the media not doing their jobs? As we found out last week, Politico is getting a massive amount of money from the federal government for no reason whatsoever. So what is their incentive to be honest and cover government corruption when they're getting that much money? They're riding the gravy train. Well, Donald Trump's example, Elon Musk's example, with DOGE, the Department of Government Oversight, government efficiency, has inspired a whole bunch of people around here to actually look into our own government. And a bunch of you this weekend sent me Washington State's fiscal information, which is called the Open Checkbook. It's state spending payments to state agencies. One good thing about Washington State is they're very transparent about this stuff because they have to be by law. So while digging through this thing, some of you sent me this. Massive payments that went to various organizations that the left supports. So, for example, here's one for you. Why is Washington State spending $102,356 of your tax money on the Seattle Times? Why? Are they paying for subscriptions? Are they paying for ads? Are they paying for, public notices that we have to put in? Are they doing that? Because none of them have returned my request for comment. So my question remains out there, why are they giving six figures to the Seattle Times? And if the Seattle Times is getting six figures from the Washington State government, what's their incentive to be honest? Who do they keep recommending all the time? Democrats. They even recommended Bob Ferguson after his disastrous endorsement interview with them. You can watch it. It's online. The Seattle Times posted it to their YouTube account. Especially watch the part where he talks about the Gaza encampment. He has no answer for it at all Because, don't forget, Bob Ferguson was funded by the people in the Gaza encampment. Organizations like the Council for American Islamic Relations, which is a branch of Hamas, which was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, the largest U.S. terror trial in history. Oh, by the way, I looked up that organization too. Would you like to know how much they got from the Washington government? Over $600,000. Why is the Washington government giving over $600,000 to a group with links to terror, to a group whose founder said that the October 7th attacks made him happy? Why are they giving this money to them when they were involved in the school walkouts, in the campus protests, when their leaders celebrated October 7th, where we still have Americans being held hostage in Gaza? And no, this is not me being racist. I looked up all the Islamic groups, and there are plenty of legitimate ones in that mix. But the fact that they're there, did nobody do a Google search on these guys? But $600,000 of your money is going to a group here in Washington with links to terrorism. That's not all. Looked up some other stuff. Over $14 million. $16 million if you factor in both groups. $16 million to radical groups that are funding illegal immigration. Now, this isn't all immigrant groups. This isn't all refugee groups. I went to each of their websites to check them out. One of them was talking about how they were founded by transgender and queer individuals. And I say, are there that many illegal immigrants coming across who identify as transgender or queer? No, of course not. But those are the ones who got the most amount of money, over $16 million. They're also the ones on their website who are saying they support illegal immigration without actually using the term. I looked at the other immigrant and refugee groups. They're not using that terminology. And those groups that seem more legit are only getting $9 million. So why are the ones bringing in the illegal immigrants getting so much more? Now, poll after poll has shown that the people in Washington believe that Washington's government has a spending problem. And to fix it, are they going to cut any of the stuff we found? No. Instead, what are they going to do? They're going to raise the taxes on you. Right now, they are weighing House Bill 1334. House Bill 1334, which is sponsored by Representatives Pollitt, Doer, Fitzgibbon, Ryu, Berry, Ormsby, Rammel, Macri, Reed, Hill, Doglio, Alvarado, Callan, and Fossey. Notice it's none of the ones whose names you have heard of. It's all Democrats who are trying to get their names heard of. But the ones who want to run for higher office, see, they don't put their names on something like this. They just vote for it. So what is this going to do? It's going to allow your county to triple your property taxes. Literally triple your property taxes. And nobody's paying attention to this at all. Now, I want you to call a legislative hotline, and I want you to say no to this insanity. The number is 1-800-562-6000. If you can't get through, just wait, try again, or it's after hours because it's after 5 o'clock. Go on the website for the Washington State Legislature, and you can lodge your complaint against House Bill 1334 over there because it's got a hearing tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock because they know most people will be waking up or commuting to work and can't attend. That's where they put the non-popular bills. First thing in the morning, House Bill 1334, say no because it will triple your property taxes. If you can't remember the number, then you just say the one that's going to lift the lid on my property taxes. Give them a call at 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000 because they want to raise your taxes rather than make any significant cuts. And speaking of significant cuts, they're putting all these threats all over the place. King County saying, we're going to have to cut first responders. We're going to have to cut police officers. We're going to have to cut the King County Sheriff. We're going to have to cut firefighting. No, that is the left trying to scare you, where they're saying, well, if we need to raise taxes so you don't lose those services. No, you should be saying, why is over $600,000 of my money going to a terrorist organization? Why is over $100,000 of my money going to the Seattle Times? Why is over $16 million of my money going to people who are not even citizens of the United States? You should be asking those questions of the Washington State Legislature. So once again, it's 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. It's House Bill 1334. Make sure you say no on that. Now, earlier today, Donald Trump made an announcement regarding the hostages in the Gaza Strip. Let me walk you through what triggered this, what got us there, speaking of terrorist organizations. So what happened was, let's not forget last week when Bibi Netanyahu was in town, before Donald Trump met with him, what did he do? He saw the October 7th footage. Then, immediately after that, he announces we're going to take over the Gaza Strip. We're going to make it Gaza Lago, Mara Gaza. We're going to make it the MAGA Strip, whatever the case may be, working with regional partners to do that. The Arab world goes bonkers crazy. Then, over the weekend, there's a hostage release. And then when they release these hostages, who have been held for almost 500 days, 491 days in the tunnels of Gaza, these are some bigger guys. These are adult men. They look like they've aged 30 years. And they look like Holocaust victims. And most of the mainstream media did not cover it. In fact, CNN erroneously covered it. CNN was talking about the terrorists that Israel released in exchange and saying how they didn't appear well at all. All the ones I saw looked fat. All the ones I saw looked well fed. They pull up some guy who's a cancer patient whose name is not on the list of the ones that were released. So they're trotting out Hamas's talking points because anybody who saw those pictures of the hostages said the Holocaust is happening again in front of our faces. And we said never again, and it's literally happening. So what happens? Everybody goes crazy in Israel. Everybody goes crazy in the U.S. government, and everybody goes crazy on the right. The left doesn't say anything. Human rights organizations don't say anything, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Let's not forget the Red Cross covered up the Holocaust, and now they're glorified Uber drivers for the hostages. Yeah, you go on their website right now. They have a whole page describing why they're not doing anything for the hostages. Give me a break. So you see these guys who look like Holocaust victims, and Donald Trump noticed this himself when he was flying to the Super Bowl. He was asked about this, and here's what he said on Air Force One.
When I see that scene that I saw today with people coming out of helicopters and airplanes that are emaciated, that look like they haven't had a meal in a month, no reason for that, and I don't know how much longer we can take it. I don't know how long we can take it. When I watch people that were healthy people a reasonably short number of years ago, and you look at them today, they look like they've aged 25 years. They literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing. And I don't know how long we're going to take that.
So reporters today were asking him about this and said, what did you mean by that? And he gave an ultimatum on what he meant by that.
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
He's 100% right. He's 100% right because this terrible deal was negotiated by Joe Biden. Yeah, the Trump administration had a little bit to do with it before they were in office, but they were dealing with a bad hand that was dealt to them by the Biden administration. None of this should have happened in the first place. But yeah, we're going to see what's going to happen now because Hamas earlier in the day had already canceled the next deal because of all the flack they were getting. And they said, no, we're not turning any more over. So Donald Trump is now saying, okay, you don't want to turn any over? Then we're coming in because don't forget there's 6 Americans in that group of hostages. 6 Americans who Joe Biden let get captured and did nothing to get them out. We're going to see what's going to happen this weekend. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Washington Democrats double down on coming after your kids. Not getting any better anytime soon. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is, so you can take us with you anywhere and never miss a minute of the show. Now, if you missed Friday's episode of the show, we had this clip. Jamie Peterson, he's the Senate Majority Leader for Washington here for the Democrats. He was on Fox News, and here's what he said.
If they're old enough to get pregnant, they're old enough to make their own decisions about what happens with their bodies, okay? And parents do not have the right to change that.
So that's Jamie Peterson, head of the Senate Democrats here in Washington, talking about 13-year-olds. That's him. Because here's what he said right after that.
Kids over 13 have the complete right to make their own decisions about their mental health care. Parents don't have a right to have notice. They don't have a right to have consent about that.
Oh, really? I'd love to know your thoughts on that. You can call or text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. If you missed the in-depth dive we did into that, on Friday, you can get the podcast over at KVI.com. And, of course, whatever your preferred podcast platform is, you can get the video over at Rumble and YouTube and X and Facebook. But here's the thing. This clip has gone mega viral. It was literally everywhere over the weekend. I saw all the conservative media pick it up. Libs of TikTok picked it up. Elon Musk commented on it. Donald Trump commented on it. And nothing from the Seattle media? Maybe that's because the Seattle Times is still getting over $100K a year from Washington state government, and they don't want to insult their sugar daddy. Didn't see anything from any of the TV networks. Didn't see anything from any local outlet, which is mind-blowing to me. What, you all afraid of losing your grants from the Washington state legislature for having your reporters cover them honestly and fairly? Not one word? Mind-boggling. They're already stripped parents of the rights they voted for through the initiative process last week. That bill went through the Senate. It's going to go through the House, and Bob Ferguson is probably going to sign that thing, which is insane, absolutely insane when they say the quiet part out loud. So wait a second. If they don't think that 13-year-olds, if they think 13-year-olds can make their own medical decisions, you know what I think Republicans should do? I think Republicans should propose a bill that says 13-year-olds can buy and own firearms. Why not lower the firearm range? Let's do that. Let's do that. I got a better idea. 13-year-olds can now go to bars. 13-year-olds can now go to strip joints. 13-year-olds can now smoke. 13-year-olds can now drive. They're adults, right? 13-year-olds can now get tattoos. I say that the Republicans in the House should just roll out a slate of bills about this, targeting everything that 13-year-olds need permission from their parents to do or are not allowed to do legally yet, starting with the firearms. Because when you have the national attention on Washington as it is right now, I think how much more traction you get out of it over Washington Republicans proposed bill to let 13-year-olds buy and own firearms. Imagine, and then you say, well, the only reason we're doing this is because they don't want parents to have the rights over this. Let's hear it again from the guy's own mouth.
Kids over 13 have the complete right to make their own decisions about their mental health care. Parents don't have a right to have notice. They don't have a right to have consent about that.
Cool. Let's get them firearms. You know what? Let's get them alcohol and firearms. In fact, let's let them drive drunk while having firearms. Let's let them do that. That's what's going to end up happening, right? Let's do that. Let's lower the marijuana age, tattoos, everything you want. Let's do that. That's what the Democrats want because they want to trans more kids. That's what this is really all about, which is insane. Absolutely insane. And the amount of people protesting in front of Seattle Children's Hospital for more trans surgeries that are butchering the children, you should be ashamed of yourselves, and history is going to judge you. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Josh in Olympia. Josh, what's up?
Hey, yeah. So I am one of those parents who has a kid who's struggling with school and just the whole anxiety and all that stuff. And he came to us for help, and where we are able to give him help, he's talking to therapists and all that. So I don't know why they're trying to say that we're not allowed to help our kids when they're the ones coming to us for help.
Yeah. Here's another one for you. I got this one for you. My niece, she's 4 years old. She comes up to me over the weekend, and her cheeks are all puffed up, like she's holding her breath, but, you're not holding your breath unless you're covering your nose, right? So she comes walking over to me, and I said, "Sweetie, what are you doing?" And she said, "I'm practicing to be a mermaid." So I turned to her mother, and I go, "Hey, you know what you got to do? You got to get her that fin surgery right away. Got to do it right away because she's 4 years old and she knows what she wants." I'll tell you something. I've had other people I've spoken to friends whose kids have psychological issues they're working the way through, and they don't want to send them to any of the state-provided counselors, and they don't necessarily have the money for the counselors because they're worried the state-provided counselors are going to say, it's because you're in the wrong body. Let's trans you. That's what's going on right now. It's horrifying being a parent in Washington.
Yep.
Yeah, Josh, appreciate the story. Appreciate what you're going through. If you want, email me. I'll send you some recommendations if I can help you out. ARI@KVI.com. That's ARI@KVI.com. Appreciate the call. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Jessica in Everett. Jessica, what's up?
Hey there. I was just going to comment that if Jamie Peterson thinks that people should be making their own medical and sexual decisions about abortion and everything else at age 13, then we better do away with statutory rape and grooming laws, because these 13-year-olds are fully within their faculties to decide whether or not they want to have sex with a teacher or any other type of predator.
It's crazy. It's crazy how they don't realize what they have opened the door for with all this insanity. And it's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, I don't know his family structure.
Absolutely insane.
Right. I don't know his family structure. I don't know his family makeup. I'm not going to judge that. But at the same time, why are they so desperate to get their hands on your kids? Why are they so desperate to get your kids away from you at the age of 13? What, so they can brainwash them to vote by the time they're 18?
I think that's it. I think they're a cult, and I think that they're grooming the political vote, and they want to be accepted in any way. And the way to do that is reach kids when they're young so they don't feel like they're, they want to fit in. And this is the easiest way for them to do it.
As I discussed, Jessica, when I was in school as a kid, my parents were going through a divorce, and I realized very quickly how easily I could milk that system where, Dad moved out. I have a test today. I don't need to take it. Dad moved out again after they reconciled. Dad moved out again. I mean, I just kept lying and lying and lying. Nowadays, it would be, I identify as they, them. Do I get special privileges now? I'm a they, them. I'm questioning. I'm non-binary. Just let me do what I want. Jessica, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, call or text 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Joe, what's up?
I got to break some news here. Breaking news. Do I get a song for that?
Well, I got to know what it is, Joe. Hit it.
Okay. All right, brother. Joshua Binda, the Everett resident stealing Linwood taxpayer money, now is facing a PDC complaint. Case number 16668. That's the case number. I also tagged you on X. Accused violation of RCW 42.17.A.710 to fairly report their debt. Mr. Binda has not reported his debts to the PDC, debts to a landlord that he stiffed, and a few other issues.
Oh, and also not living in the city he has to live in to represent Linwood, right? That one's part of it too, right?
That's kind of part of it. The PDC doesn't regulate residency.
Sure.
But I cannot say everything because this is public airwaves.
Yes.
But I filed a case of another agency that kind of does, and they're working on that right now.
See,
I don't want to say what agency because I don't want to public.
That's fine. Citizens stepping up like Joe, like the ones who are helping me, DOGE, Washington State. That's the best thing about the show. This is why I love this job. Joe, thanks for the update. Do appreciate it. You want to be part of the show, text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, how the Washington State Legislature is going to make your life more expensive by taxing cow farts. Yes, week 4 of talking about this. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, I cannot believe we are into the now fourth week of talking about cow flatulence. I kid you not. As if we don't have a massive, massive budget crisis, the Democrats are now trying to solve it by taxing cow farts. I just can't believe I actually said that sentence, and it's real news, and it's not even a Friday. It's not even fake news Friday. Joining us now to discuss this absolute insanity, Representative Mark Klicker, who represents Walla Walla, Washington. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure. All right, let's take it from the top, because you did a great job calling out the Democrats the other day by saying, what, should we really start taxing the farts of everybody in the football stadium?
Yeah. When's this going to stop? We produce so much methane. It doesn't matter which way it comes out. We produce methane in all kinds of different avenues. So, it's just one more thing that producers, businesses are taking a hit on, and it's really got to stop, because it's really going to affect the consumer down the road, if not now.
Because as I understand it, what's going to happen is, of course, the farmers are going to say, well, we can't afford this thing, so they're going to roll it over into their costs, and things are going to get more expensive. We're still suffering with the price of eggs being as high as they are, especially here in Washington, because of all that cageless bird nonsense.
What it's really going to do, Ari, is it's farmers, for the most part, are takers. They don't set their price. They take the price that's given to them. So their profit margins are really, really low. So what they're going to do is they're going to have to either go out of business, sell off the farm, whatever it may be, or get out of that type of industry and go somewhere else. It's the consumer that's going to really take the hit, and it's kind of like the frog in gradually warming water. They're not going to feel it till it's too late.
Right. Now, this is House Bill 1630. And the question I have is, what else are they going to tax? I mean, they already hurt the farmers with the with the Climate Commitment Act, because they said, well, you guys are going to be exempt from all these extra gas prices. It turns out they weren't. They still haven't found a way to solve that. And now in this bill, it's yet another thing they're putting on top of them. Why would anybody stay in the industry?
Well, it's really difficult for them to do that. And so right now, if you really factored in cattle feedlots in this state, they've reported more than 25,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. And so that would actually qualify them for these carbon auctions. And so what that does is then they'd have to go in there and buy just to stay in the game. And they can't do it, but the consumer is going to pay for it, because it'll trickle down some way, shape, matter of form. And so, they're going to go into another type of employment just because they can't stay in it.
So they have to come up with this imaginary system where they buy these imaginary credits that were manufactured out of nowhere, because that'll help the environment. So far, none of this has actually shown me how they're helping the environment. It just shows me how they want our tax money.
It's pretty amazing when you have other countries such as China and India that are creating these carbon emissions by building batteries and your solar panels, everything else, utilizing lithium and cobalt that's being harvested by children, and their smokestacks are burning up trying to make these things. And then we are trying to save the environment over here, but it's just being shifted over there.
Now, if you want to say no to House Bill 1630, which is going to make your groceries more expensive by taxing cow farts, I still can't believe I'm saying that. You say no to House Bill 1630. You give the legislative hotline a call, 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000, and say no to House Bill 1630, or say no to taxing cow farts, and they'll know what you're talking about. Reminder, when you call these people, it is not the Democrats answering the phone line. It is not the legislators answering the phone line. It is very nice operators who work for you. So be nice to them, please. Don't be mean to them. In the last few minutes we have with Representative Mark Klicker, you have some bipartisan bills you're working on right now. Why don't you tell us about those?
Well, we got a lot of different bills out there. I actually have one that is a cost driver bill for affordable housing, and can't even remember the number of it. It's House Bill 1108. And what that does, it formulates a committee throughout the state of just about anybody and everybody within the industry. It's realtors, builders, tenants, landlords, insurance, utility companies, and economists, architects. They'll come in, come to the table, and within a year lay out their experiences and the information to really determine the root of the problem, why our housing is so unaffordable. And so it is a huge bill that's going to make a big difference instead of shooting from the hip, trying to find other bills. Then also have what they call the Neighborhood Cafe Bill. That's a huge hit. It's kind of the darling bill of the legislature. That one requires cities to allow small, little, tiny restaurants, little pubs, little coffee shops in the neighborhood so we can create community. And then finally, that was House Bill 1075. And then finally, a litter bill that is going to penalize people from an infraction 3, category 3 to infraction 2 that will up the price for people littering. Let's get our state clean, make it the evergreen state again, and let's move forward that way. Those are good bills that people like, that's bipartisan.
So do you think with House Bill 1108, which is the one you were discussing with regard to housing, do you think the Democrats are going to want to take a look at the regulation, especially the green energy regulations that are a lot of the drivers of what's making building houses so expensive?
Well, the thing is, you really can't deny what's going on. And I think when it's out in front of them, people have to make that decision. And I hope that the majority party will take that bill, work with us, and come up with legislation that's going to pass, that the governor will sign. I know that the lieutenant governor's office loves the bill. He really wants this thing to go through. So it's a good bill. It's something that needs to be done. Let's get to the root of the problem, and that's what this bill does.
I completely agree. So everybody who's listening to the sound of my voice, please give the legislative hotline a call and tell them no on House Bill 1630. That's no on the cow farting insanity. And give them a yes on House Bill 1108, which would make sure that we can analyze what's driving up the costs of housing. Representative Mark Clicker from Walla Walla, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway and our good news headlines, a quick programming note for everybody. So I am heading off to Israel to go visit my son, who is in college over there, heading out there for the rest of the week. But don't worry, because Mike and young Zach are going to be taking over the reins for the week. So you still have the Ari Hoffman Show. You still have your chances to win fantabulous prizes all week long. And we know that Mike and Zach will do a stellar job. Right? See, Mike's nodding his head.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head on the radio. That's how that works. No, it's going to be fun. We've Zach has been doing some stuff with our news station recently, our sister station, Northwest News Radio, and he's been working with some of their reporters, our good friend Jeff Pogela, like on the Legislator. So he's got some interviews and clips and stories and kind of more of an eye on the legislature than I've got. So I'm really excited to bring in some of that stuff. Plus, we're going to do a little Big Mike versus the world. We're going to throw open the phone lines, and it's going to be a different speed, but I think if folks like our brand of nonsense, I think they'll enjoy it. So stick around with us throughout the week, and I'll give you some fantabulous prizes at 5:45 every weekday for your troubles.
Just for sticking around, too. So, yeah. Remember to tune in every single weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Question is, am I going to be able to take off tomorrow? Because most of the Puget Sound is under a cold weather advisory through Wednesday morning because of bitter cold temperatures. I mean, this is basically everybody. It lifts Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., so make sure you're dressing warmly out there. Our friend Matt G had a good line earlier when we were talking about those Antifa protesters at the anti-ICE protest. He was saying, well, of course they didn't ditch their jackets so they wouldn't be recognized. It was freezing cold out there. He's right. Now, I think Starbucks is open till 8, 9 o'clock at night, but Starbucks is offering free coffee to its reward members today because of the Super Bowl. Now, you have to have the Rewards app installed on your phone, but they're offering tall drinks. I think that's a medium. They're offering tall drinks if you use your Rewards thing. So if you want to go and sign up for your Rewards thing, it's not going to help you, but you should check your phone to see if you signed up at some point in the past, even if you don't get Starbucks, and go get your free coffee today. Also, according to Como News, Friday morning was extra exciting at Fire Station 24 in Seattle. Just after getting back to the firehouse from a house fire, firefighters were called to the report of a 29-year-old woman about to give birth. In a parking lot, we parked on the street, wasn't sure where she was, quickly walked about 100 yards to where we heard someone screaming, got there as quick as we could, and the lady was pretty distraught, said Seattle firefighter Jake Hammond. The team of him and Zach Cotterill knew exactly this birth wasn't going to happen at the hospital. Said it was happening very fast. She knew that the baby was already crowning. The paramedics showed up, and two more paramedics showed up, and the group of 4 went to work. We delivered the baby right there in the car, which was, by the time we got there, the baby was out of my hands in about 2 minutes. Yeah, really fast, he said. He said it was a scary thing, baby coming out, especially for me. I don't have kids. I have a baby girl on the way. Both life-saving professionals say what happened in the parking lot is something they will never forget. It feels good. I love kids. I love babies. And it felt good to put her at ease more than anything else. The mother and baby were taken to the hospital and are expected to be just fine. I actually have a friend who delivered her daughter with the fire department because they were close by. She couldn't get to the hospital in time. And actually, for her wedding, we tried to find out who all those firefighters were. Unfortunately, a lot of them had been stationed elsewhere and left Seattle, but we were able to identify them from a picture of the mom with the baby when the baby was a year old and went to the firehouse to say thank you to all the firefighters. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes today. We are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, plus the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial, and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. While I am out of town, by the way, I will still be trying to go live and post material to my social media accounts. So make sure you're following the Hofffather over on X, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram. So that way I'll be putting up more content and share with you a little bit of my trip. Like, for example, I'm going to this restaurant called Pit Masters. Now, there's not a lot of kosher options here in Seattle, but they have Pit Masters in Jerusalem, which apparently is a big show where you watch them barbecue stuff and then you get to eat it. I don't know what it is. I'm excited. I will send video of Pit Masters because I'm very much looking forward to this whole thing. I don't even know what it is. Check out the website, Pit Masters Jerusalem. I'll send you pictures and video. While I'm there, it'll be a lot of fun. But remember, you got Mike and young Zach here for the rest of the week, and I'll be back next week. But so, my friends, until then, I bid you adieu. Hopefully my flight is not frozen solid tomorrow, but make sure you're listening to Mike and Zach tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. for more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.